Welcome from wherever you are to Paradox. We're an affirming community that meets every Saturday morning online and in person for church at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. and for our kids and youth programs at 10:15 a.m. By practicing the art of community, wrestling with scripture, and meditating in prayer, we empower each other to love God with all our hearts, minds, and souls, and to radically love others fully and completely in their entire identity. At Paradox, we know that experiencing the absence of God is as real as experiencing the presence of God. And we honor these realities by carving out space and time each week to celebrate and to lament together. By texting Paradox to 22333, you can join us by sharing your anonymous celebrations and laments. Currently, we are in the midst of a 66-part sermon series where we study every single book of the Bible through stories of joy, mourning, doubt, peace, oppression, and liberation. We explore together the unique relationship between the human and the divine. Church may leave you with more questions than answers, but that is one of the things we value most. Here at Paradox, we believe that sermons are meant to start discussions, not end them. We hope our time together leads to better conversations, deeper questions, an excitement for mystery, and a conviction to honor the image of God in all we meet as we seek to see and embrace Jesus Christ in all.
World waits for a miracle. The time now that the heart a bit of hope. Oh come, Emmanuel. A child prays for peace on earth, and she's calling out from a sea of hurt. Oh come, Emmanuel. And can you hear the angels singing glory to the light of the world? world waits for the miracle. The heart longs for a little bit of hope. Oh come, Emmanuel.
Good morning. It is so good to be here this morning. If you would turn to someone next to you and say, I am glad that you are here. We are so glad that you are here with us this morning at Paradox. Just want to take this moment to remind you what we do at Paradox. People are so excited to see each other. This is great. What am I supposed to do? Say no? Don't enjoy this? Thank you so much for joining us here at Paradox. One thing we do every week here at Paradox is we typically celebrate and lament. However, we are in the season of Advent, which is the season that we look forward to Christ's birth. So for this season, we started with the service of lamentation, and now we are doing celebrations and hopes. Celebrations are things that have happened or are currently happening. And hopes are what we hope for the future. So we are going to invite all of you to send in your texts of celebrations first and then hopes. Now, we've been introducing a new position here at Paradox, which is the liturgist. And today we have Holly and David Hayton Rittenhouse joining us this morning. Okay, you can be excited they're here. I thought there'd be a little more. I guess I should add, I just got to officiate their wedding anniversary like 2 weeks ago, and it was awesome. So, yes. Yeah, you may say wedding anniversary. You have no idea what it's like to plan a wedding during COVID, and these two endured and have made it here. So we're just so glad you're here, and congratulations from all of us here at Paradox. So Holly and Dave will be leading us through celebrations first, and then we invite you to send your text celebrations, and then they'll be leading us through hopes in just a little bit. So we'd love for you to send your text of hope that time, but we'll begin with celebrations. David?
Hi, Paradox. For those of you who don't know, like he said, I'm David, and I'd first like to thank Craig for spoiling what I was going to talk about for my celebration. But yeah, I'd like to talk about what we were able to celebrate 2 weeks ago tomorrow. So we had our 1-year marriage anniversary on November 28th, and to celebrate, we had our wedding. Not many people get to say that. So in November of 2020, we were able to have a very small marriage ceremony with just our close immediate family. But unfortunately, we had to delay our wedding, obviously because of the pandemic, at our venue that we had chosen in late 2019. So this year, thanks to the vaccine, we felt comfortable enough to bring all of our family and friends together from all over the country to celebrate our marriage. That whole night really just could not have gone better. You know, we had the best officiant, Craig, thanks to you again. Some of you might know him. But we just felt so blessed to feel that it was safe enough to bring so many loved ones together at once, especially thinking about where we were a year ago when we didn't have the vaccine. So that was my celebration.
Don't get me wrong, getting married again was great, but that's not what my celebration is about today. So for those of us who are here in person today, we know that living in the Inland Empire, we spend a lot of time either in the really, really long stretch of summer or somewhere kind of in between all the other seasons. There are these moments we really look forward to. Like for me, it's the warm summer nights, or this week, the onset of winter rains. This week, I went hiking by myself in the Loma Linda Hills in the morning. It was a 4-mile hike, 2 miles out and 2 miles back. And I realized at a certain point that I was spending a lot of time watching my feet to make sure I didn't fall. Around mile 3, I stopped on the trail to let some cyclists pass me going the opposite direction. And in that pause, I looked up to see, in between the hills, the peaks of the mountains in a clearing in the clouds completely covered in snow. Something just powerful and overwhelmingly glorious that I had missed because I was watching my feet the whole time. And alone with me in that moment on this branch that extended between the hills, there was this golden hawk, and I swear it was like this bird was watching the mountain with me. I stood in the cold and the still for a moment, and I was just in awe because I saw so clearly the face of God, and what a joy and a sacred moment that was. Today we're inviting you to share your celebrations with us on the screen, and we'll be back up for hopes in just a minute.
Paradox, let's stand and sing this next song together. If there is a song that we can sing together, it is a Christmas song, right? All right. I invite you to sing the words of this song out as we celebrate each other this morning.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. All right. We will sing, sing, sing. Joy to the world.
Sing that again.
We will sing, sing, sing.
All right, let's sing this out together.
Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs implore, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat, repeat the sounding joy, and we will sing, sing, sing. Sing it out. Joy to the world. We will sing, sing, sing. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the light of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders, wonders of his love. And we will sing, sing, sing. Joy to the world, and we will sing, sing, sing. Yeah. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, opening to the sun above. Sing it out. Joyful, joyful, we adore thee, God of glory, Lord of love. Hearts unfold like flowers before thee, opening to the sun above. We will sing, sing, sing. Joy to the world. We will sing, sing, sing.
Amen. You guys can have a seat.
There's a little bit more to the story of my experience with the mountaintop. After I'd taken a moment of appreciation, of awe, I, of course, took out my phone and took a picture, and I shared it with my husband, with David. And our first instincts were to look at this just incredible beauty and compare it to a fantasy. I believe the first one was Middle Earth, for those of you guys who watch Lord of the Rings. And we had this moment where we were like, wow, that looks straight out of Middle Earth. And I paused and I went, but it's not. It's our Earth. In fact, better than that, it's the Inland Empire. This is where I live. This is my home. And you know what? Craig has spoken here on the ecological implications of a Western religious philosophy that claims humans are not part of this world. My hope is that as the new year arrives, we're going to see people embracing the opposite of that. I wanted to show a little bit of accountability to that hope today. Some small piece of my personal commitment to making my hope a reality by sharing briefly the work and writing of Dr. Robin Wall-Kimmerer. David, can you hold this up for me? Dr. Robin Wall-Kimmerer is an indigenous scientist and professor. She's a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation, and she writes on the potential for an intersection of Western religious and scientific practices with indigenous traditions of faith and environmentalism. To me, she embodies what it means to love this earth as our home, our mother, and a reflection of the face of God. This is the hope that I'm sharing with you all today, and I'd be happy to talk more about her or her work after the service. Thanks, Paradox.
Thanks, Holly. So I'd just like to begin my hope in mentioning that last night after work, I was able to get my COVID booster shot. So I'm kind of going through it a little bit at the moment. I'm kind of just running on ibuprofen and coffee right now. But this ties into what I said in my celebration. My hope for us is that, with us in this country, is that we continue to make it known that this vaccine is safe and that it's effective. I can't wait to see family this holiday season and not feel guilty or nervous about bringing large groups together. Just thinking about the difference of how we felt coming together last Christmas versus now, it's just such a world of difference, and we can't be grateful enough. And my hope is that we can all continue to move forward in putting this pandemic behind us. So we invite you now to share your hopes with us.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply echo back their joyous strain. Glory Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see him whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo, Gloria in excelsis Deo.
All right, let's bow our heads together. Dear God, during this Advent season, we ask that you give us the strength to be people of hope. Help us to be compassionate. Help us to be in touch with the suffering in ourselves and others. But also help us to believe that things can and will get better. We thank you for the gift of your Son, which reminds us that hope shines brightly, even in the darkest of nights. In the human name of Jesus, in the eternal name of Christ. Amen. You can have a seat.
Amen. It is wonderful to sing Christmas music with all of you, and thank you so much for being here at Paradox and finding us here. You can take your phone. There we are. No problem. No problem. We're just so glad that you have joined us here for worship during this Advent season. And we are talking about Christmas today a lot, so you've come to the right place if that's what you're looking for. Now, if this is your first time here, I want to say welcome to all of you. One thing that's different about Paradox is that sermons at Paradox are designed to start discussions and not end them. This is really important to understand about Paradox. What I'm about to say is not the end-all, be-all, and we're going to talk about some things that are, a bit divisive is the right way to say it. It's a little divisive. So I'm going to do the best I can to try and bring people along and make it be a generous conversation. Some weeks I miss the mark. Other weeks I hit it. But I want you to know that we try to grow in love here every week at Paradox, and that's the most important thing if you want to be part of this church, is a commitment to growing in love. We also believe so strongly in this that in January we're going to be starting discussion groups. If you're interested, we're going to have a meeting on Tuesday to talk about what these discussion groups are like, and we'd love for you to join us on Tuesday. Just let me know and we'll send you the information for it. But whether you're really busy or not so busy, we would love for you to join these discussion groups because it's going to guide us through the Gospel of Luke. Also want to say thank you to all who donate and make Paradox possible by donating at paradoxgiving.com. Your generosity continues to overwhelm me, and we're just so grateful for the opportunity to do church in this way. Now, as I said earlier, we are in Christmas here at Paradox. Today is a sermon entitled Dear Bode. Next week is a very special guest named Samir Selmanovich, who is an excellent speaker. He will make me look conservative, so you cannot wait for this guy. It's going to be a great time. Do not miss this. And at the end of the day, if you're like, wow, that was very liberal, well, you know, we'll try again next week. We'll do the best we can here. So Samir, though, Samir is an excellent speaker and just really leads with grace, and I've just really enjoyed every one of his sermons that I've heard. Then we're going to do Dear Maya on December 25. Yes, December 25, we will be here, and I want you to know we want to spend Christmas with you. And we're going to have a big old Christmas sing-along. We are going to have some decadent desserts for breakfast prepared by Tammy Schwelt, which, if you've been here before, you know that's worth celebrating. And then on January 1, I forgot to mention, we'll also have Christmas sing-along on December 25. It's going to be great. And then on January 1, we're doing Paradox Unscripted, where you ask any question you can think of about religion or spirituality, and I try my best to answer it live on stage, and everyone loves to watch me sweat and get nervous. It's great. It's a great time. So we'd love for you to join us for that. So with that, we're going to talk about Dear Bode, which is the way I talk about Christmas. I write a letter to both of my kids during the Christmas season because their birthdays are December 12 and December 24. So I talk a little bit about that in the letter that I'm about to read for the sermon today. But there's a couple disclaimers I need to make. The first one is, I'm not a medical person, and I'm going to say a few medical terms. And I'm asking for your grace in that you are most likely a medical professional if you're here, just to say, hey, he tried. That's all I'm asking, okay? So that's the first thing. The second disclaimer is I'm using feminine pronouns for God. I just want to let you know ahead of time so that way you may not be so scared when I say it later. We all gotta make this transition. It's only a metaphor, everybody. We can do this together. So, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. So with that in mind, we turn to Dear Bode, and this is a letter I wrote to my son. Dear Bode, for the past 2 weeks, you have been counting down the number of sleeps until your birthday. And today, the number of sleeps is 1. Tonight, you will go to bed as a 4-year-old Bode, and tomorrow, you will wake up as a 5-year-old. Happy birthday, Bode. 5 years ago tomorrow, you came into the world and instantly filled our lives with more joy. Looking back at these videos of you as a newborn, fill me with a kind of indescribable reverence. For the past 5 years, I've had the privilege of watching you grow from this baby to a 1-year-old, and then to a 2-year-old, and then to a 3-year-old, and then to a 4-year-old. And being your father while you are 4, you have been an absolute delight. Allow me to share with you a few of my favorite memories from your 4th year of life. Early on in this year, I was downstairs, probably sitting on my phone and oblivious to the wonder around me, when you called me upstairs and said you needed help. I rushed upstairs, and you showed me something, and I immediately filmed a video. Hi, Bode.
Hi.
How old are you?
4.
And where is your underwear?
Right here.
Right. And where's your other underwear?
Right there.
Right where? Oh my. What? Is that your underwear on the chandelier? How did it get up there?
Because I throw it.
Why did you throw it up there?
Because I missed it. I got it first.
Well, how are we going to get it down?
Throw louder.
Throw louder? Good idea. All right, say bye-bye.
Bye.
A few months later, you asked your mother about getting back to an alpine slide up in Big Bear, but you felt she wasn't understanding what you were saying. This frustrated you, and we got a video of your frustration.
No, it isn't. It's on the blue bird on the top, and it's a soaring eagle. The eagle is on the top. And it has red sheets.
Yeah, that's a Big Bear.
Yeah. Mama, it's not blue.
What? I didn't say blue, I said Big Bear.
It's not Big Bear.
What is it?
It's Sally's bear. Sally's bear. Sally's bear. Sally's bear. He's on.
Yeah, it's like sledding where we sat down, right? And it went on the track. What?
In April, you led Paradox Church in our weekly ritual of celebration.
Hello, my name is Bode. I'm 4 years old. The first thing that makes me happy is golfing with Daddy and swimming with Mommy and golfing with Daddy and playing with my friends and playing with Jake and Ben and playing with Jakey and Mommy. Playing with Maya and playing with Barbies with Maya. And playing with Patrol with Maya. Playing with what makes me happy. Thanks for Zoe. Good time. Bye-bye.
This summer, you excelled as a swimmer. You learned how to dive into the deep end of the pool and retrieve objects from the lowest level.
Daddy's gonna be right here, okay? Good. You got it. Nice, Maya. You're good. Keep going. There you go. Keep going. Good job. Good job.
Whoa, you got it! Nice! Bode, let's see. You got it? Nice!
And 2 months ago, you dressed up in a way that all the cool kids describe as, quote, dripping. Now, I have to tell you, Bode, I stare at this photo in awe because you are my son, and I have never looked this cool in my life. I don't know how you look like this. I'm 38, and all I've ever wanted to do in this life is look as cool as you do at 4. Now, part of this look is due to the fact that you received hand-me-down Jordans from your older cousin. And one day, when I was tying your Jordans onto your feet, you pointed at the logo and asked me, "Who's this?" I said, "That's Michael Jordan. He was the greatest basketball player of all time." You looked a little disappointed when I told you this. "Oh," you said, "I thought it was Kevin's dad." Now, I have known Kevin's dad for a long time, Bode, and I believe you are the first person ever to get him mixed up with Michael Jordan. And just a few weeks ago, your mother signed you up for a 1K fun run on Thanksgiving morning. You ran your little heart out. Your mom cheered you on every step of the way, and you smiled the entire race. This is strange, Bode, because I do not have any memories from my childhood where I enjoyed running any distance. But you loved all of it. I need to warn you that your mother is probably trying to ramp up your training year by year so that you will be able to run a half Ironman with her by your 13th birthday. And this is probably only the beginning. But if you love it, then I will cheer you on from the sidelines when you're doing a half Ironman. But when I think of 2021 and the time I spent with you, the dominant memories that will come to mind for me are all of the memories we shared together on the ski slopes. Due to the pandemic, we skied more this year than any other year of my entire life. Not only that, but skiing is the activity that the 4 of us in our family enjoy doing the most together. And your progress over the last year has been remarkable. Less than a year ago, you were still skiing on a leash. You were still skiing on a leash. Your mother and I took turns guiding you down the mountain while we held the brakes behind you. But then we started taking you off the leash and let you get used to sliding on your own. You were happy as long as your mother was not too far from you. You then started going down the easiest chair on the mountain. You balanced and you learned how to slow yourself down, and you were able to do it all with control and safety. Within a few runs, we realized we could take you down steeper runs. You turned back and forth with ease. And all of a sudden, the mountain seemed so much bigger and so much more open to our family of 4. Once, I was skiing with Maya while Mom was skiing with you, and we were going up chair 1 while the 2 of you were going down chair 1. I took a video from a long ways away because this moment represents so much progress in your skiing journey. Here's Bode right here. 4 days before this video was taken, you were still on the leash. And you went from the leash to skiing down steep intermediate runs like Broadway in just 4 days. This ability to ski the steeper stuff has allowed you to ski with your best friends. Here you are skiing with Kevin, and here you are skiing with Shane. Your mother and I hope that you have a lifetime of happy memories skiing on the mountains with your friends. But you really fell in love with skiing this year when your mother and I started taking you to the terrain park. Oh man, Bode, you loved to go off jumps. And you kept going over jumps all day long and begged us to take you back to the terrain park. You cannot get enough of these little jumps going up and down and catching big air. Now when we take you to steeper parts of the mountains, you reluctantly agree, but it's only 1 or 2 runs before you ask us to take you back to the terrain park. You love the park so much that when we were skiing down it, I turned and saw you do a box slide. This was completely unprompted by me, and I could not believe that you just decided to do it all by yourself. That box is very slippery, and you made it look easy. And between the jumps and the boxes, you have found your happy place on the mountain, and that place is the terrain park. And lastly, what I really appreciate about you and our time skiing together is that you are willing to dance with me on the chairlift. All of these memories and pictures bring a smile to my face because you have brought an abundance of happiness to our household. Your mother and I are lucky to have you as a son, and we are grateful for all the wondrous passion you've brought to this earth. A tradition that has developed in our family is that every year I write your sister and you a letter on your birthday to talk about the year that was, the year to come, and how all of it relates to Christmas. This is because both of you were born in December, within 2 weeks of Christmas Day. This may sound strange to you, but before both of you were born, I never really thought of the Christmas story as a birthing story. Instead, the Christmas story was more of a detached prophetic fulfillment, a bit of a necessary theological milestone. But then your sister was born on Christmas Eve, and you were born on December 12, and now the Christmas tree and the songs and the family dinners all remind me of the liminal moments I experienced while holding your mother's hand while you were born. You see, the Christmas story is, at its core, about a mother giving birth to her son. And whenever someone gives birth to their child, particularly when they give birth filled with hope that this child will live a meaningful life, then they are living the Christmas story. Shortly after you were born, I wrote the following about Christmas. The Christmas story begins with God. This God crafted all of the known universe and the unknown universe. God crafted 2 trillion galaxies. This God transcended time and space and dimensions. She spins planets and electrons. She created and understands nuclear fusion and quantum entanglement and still has time to write poetry and appreciate Moravian trombone solos. But then one day, 2,000 years ago, the Christmas story unfolded in an unexpected direction when that same God decided to be reduced to a single cell inside of a womb. And that cell then divided into 2 cells. And after 40 weeks of cells dividing, this being, this substance, this entity that taught light how to behave, passed through the birth canal and screamed a desperate cry of help as the baby fought to survive. What a strange thing to picture, the creator of the universe crying for help. But all this God could do was cry for help at that time. Jesus couldn't feed himself. Jesus couldn't change his own diaper. Jesus couldn't keep warm by himself. Jesus couldn't stand up. Jesus couldn't go and fight the Romans. All Jesus could do was cry and hope that someone would hear him. And someone did. Mary heard him and loved him and cared for him. And without her love, her care, and her motherhood, Christmas would have ceased to exist. Stop for a moment and drink in the fullness of what is happening here in the Christmas story. God, yes, that God, the one who is above all and created all and travels through all, stopped giving, stopped creating, stopped answering prayers, stopped everything, and received. Christians tend to emphasize the holiness of giving, but the Christmas story is, above all else, the holiness of receiving. When you are giving, you are in charge. You're the alpha that gets to say how things go because you are where these things come from. So Christians view God as the ultimate authority because God is the ultimate giver. But that all changes with the Christmas story. When God is born as a fragile baby, God put herself into a position that required God to receive extravagant grace. This infant God couldn't repay his mother. Instead, God could only receive. God could only accept. God could only take. In this creation, there are few gifts of grace as lavish as a mother loving and caring for her newborn. Bode, your mother is a remarkable woman who loves adventure. She loves to skydive, backpack, snow ski, zip line, rock climb, run in Ironmans, and wakeboard. She put all of these things on hold for 40 weeks when she found out that she was pregnant with you. She sat on the sidelines, which she hates doing, so that you could be a happy and healthy baby. Your mother never loved being pregnant, but she always loved you, Bode. When you were born, she nursed you at any hour that you asked. She fell asleep with you clutched in her arms numerous times. She took pictures of you. She hugged you. She kissed you. She changed you. She cheered for you. She gave and she gave and she gave and she gave to get you through those first months of life. I tell you all of this because she doesn't expect anything in return from you. What she gave to you was never meant to be paid back. You were simply asked to receive. Jesus went through the same birth that you went through, Bode, and Jesus had to receive the same gift of a mother's love that you received. And from what we know, Jesus' mother didn't ask for anything in return or hold it over Jesus' head. She simply gave grace. And how did God respond to this incredible gift of grace? God received. The potency of the Christmas story is the testimony that Jesus received grace before Jesus gave grace. The great Richard Rohr once said, "Love is not love until you stop expecting something back. The moment you want something in return for your giving, love is weakened and prostituted. This is the nature of the divine energy that transforms. Love is always flowing outward. It is inherently contagious, and it is holiness itself." Grace is love that does not expect something back. And I have to tell you, as I have watched you as a 4-year-old, you are really good at receiving grace, Bode. You are exceptional at accepting love that does not expect something back. And you have taught me in the year 2021 what it looks like to receive grace with open arms. Back in January, you drew a picture. You held up this drawing and said, "Daddy, do you like it?" I looked at it without pause, said, "Oh, Bode, I love it. Great job." A moment passed, and then you asked the daunting question, "What is it?" And in that moment, I was busted. I said, "Bode, I don't know, but it's really good." And then you told me, and I made you say it again on video. "Bode, did you make a drawing? What is that?"
This is Mom, and this is Bode.
Is Mommy pregnant with you? Mm-hmm. Oh, that is so sweet.
I love it. Like the old days.
My heart melted. You drew a picture of yourself in utero with Mommy. And this picture is a portrait of grace. I saw you receiving grace this summer while we hung out at the pool. While I didn't count, I estimate that you jumped off the diving board about 2,374 times this summer. You love running as fast as you can, plunging with all your might into the water, and enjoying the splash with all of your joy. And that abundant joy is apparent whenever I take a slow motion video of you jumping off the diving board. The look on your face is a kind of surprised wonder as you marvel at how lucky you are to be able to jump into water. This is the reception of grace that I strive to be as happy as you are about life when you are jumping off the diving board. And lastly, I saw you receive grace in the best way possible this past Halloween. Your mother and I procrastinated on shopping for your costume. Around October 24, we asked you what you wanted to be. Pikachu, you said. We went on the internet and found out that every Pikachu costume on the internet was sold out. Not only that, but every costume for 4-year-olds was pretty much sold out on the internet. So we looked through our closets and found your costume from 3 years ago, and then smiled and said, hey, Bode, do you want to be Batman for Halloween this year? You smiled and said, yes, I do. You wore this costume to school, and you couldn't believe your luck that you got to be Batman at school. And even if you were Batman who was wearing capri pants. Thankfully, our good friends, the Poblosians, came to our rescue and loaned you a costume of your first choice, which was, of course,
All right, move.
And go. Pikachu. And from that moment forward, from this video forward, Halloween was on. You bounced from house to house, collecting as many candies as you could. Sorry, candles, that's not right. Collecting as many candies as you could. Your Pikachu tail wiggled with every step, and you enthusiastically rang a plethora of doorbells. You thanked everyone who gave you candy, and after trick-or-treating for an hour, your sister called it a night, but you begged me to trick-or-treat with you some more after dark. So you, me, your friend Kevin, and Kevin's dad, trick-or-treated all the way until bedtime. You went to bed that night with a giant grin across your face. When I think of how easily you received grace, Bode, I am reminded of the words of the Persian poet from the 14th century, Hafiz. He wrote a poem called The God Who Only Knows 4 Words, and it feels like it was written about your life. It goes like this. Every child has known God, not the God of names, not the God of don'ts, not the God who ever does anything weird, but the God who only knows 4 words and keeps repeating them, saying, come, dance with me. Come, dance. This poem embodies all that I will remember about you as a 4-year-old. In a year filled with anxiety, uncertainty, polarization, and suspicion, I will remember you in the middle of all of it, reminding me that God just simply wants me to dance with her. You have taught me how to receive grace with the windows down and arms wide open. And for that lesson, Bode, I am deeply grateful to you. You are one of my great teachers and one of my favorite people in the whole world to spend time with. Thank you, Bode, for being you. I want to close this letter with a story about 2021 and my wish for you in this coming year of life and the years beyond for your life ahead. A friend of mine recently asked me, Craig, how have you received grace in the year 2021? I thought about that for a moment, and then I quickly said, the vaccine. The COVID vaccine is how I received grace this year. Now, whenever you read this letter, Bode, this answer may sound like a strange response, but I want to invite you to remember the context in which this letter was written. Since March of 2020, 49.7 million Americans have tested positive for COVID-19. In the same time frame, 794,000 Americans have died from this virus. To put that number in perspective, 405,000 Americans, almost 400,000 less, died in all of World War II. In California, over 75,000 people lost their lives to COVID, and in our home county of San Bernardino, the virus has killed 6,006 people. Bode, I've heard people in our county say that 6,006 people isn't that big a deal. But Bode, one of those 6,006 people was one of my best friends when I was 5 years old. I went to his funeral this past summer, and I wept. My eyes stung for days after this funeral because I cried so hard. It's a surreal and tragic experience to go to the funeral of a childhood friend. This virus is terrible. In the summer of 2020, the only hope we had was to spread out and hunker down until the virus died or a vaccine was developed. When the non-scientists like me asked the question, how long does a vaccine take to be developed? The scientists answered back, it will take years. And we groaned, longing for a day when a vaccine could be implemented so that we could eradicate the virus from our lives. But the scientists surprised even themselves. Due to an unprecedented collaborative effort and state-of-the-art technology, an effective vaccine was developed and tested in record time. 1 year ago today, on December 11, 2020, the first vaccine received emergency authorization from the FDA. And 3 days later, Sandra Lindsay, a nurse in New York, became the first American to receive the vaccine in the United States. A week later, a second vaccine received the same authorization, and 2 months later, a third vaccine rolled out to the masses. And once the vaccines were introduced, everything changed. From January to June of 2021, researchers found that in people over the age of 50, the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were about 90% effective in preventing serious COVID infections, and Johnson & Johnson was about 70% effective in preventing serious COVID infections. The vaccine is one of the greatest miracles I have seen in my lifetime. Your mother and I got vaccinated as soon as we could. We vaccinated your sister when it was authorized for 5 to 11-year-olds, and through the grace of God, we are going to vaccinate you within a day or two of your 5th birthday. The reason we are doing this is because when the vaccine was approved for children, we called our pediatrician, who loves you and your sister and wants what is truly best for both of you, and asked her if we should get the vaccine for the kids. Yes, she said, and then added, I have no reservations about giving children the COVID vaccine. We are lucky to have health professionals in our lives that we can trust. In about 5 weeks, our family will be fully vaccinated. Just writing these words on a page fills me with an overwhelming sense of gratitude. In the summer of 2020, I thought that we might all be vaccinated by the end of 2023. And even then, I would have confessed that I was being optimistic. And yet, I didn't do anything to help with the research of this vaccine. I didn't help with the logistics. I didn't work in the clinic. I simply showed up way sooner than I expected, received a shot, and then turned to the woman administering the shot and said, thank you. What a gift. What a gift. What a tremendous gift. And it is a gift that you will receive next week. And this is why I call the vaccine grace. Bode, there are 3 ideas I want to point out about what the vaccine teaches us about grace. The first idea is that I have spent a grand total of 0 minutes in my entire lifetime worrying about you contracting polio. The reason for this is because a polio vaccine was developed and distributed in 1955 and then eradicated from the United States in 1979. When I was born in 1983, I received a polio vaccine, and when you were born 33 years later, you received a polio vaccine. And with a little more tenacity and dedication, we may be able to eradicate polio from the entire planet in the next few years. So while polio is no longer a threat to Americans, it's important for Americans to remember the threat of polio. If we completely forget about polio and the generations who came before us to eliminate polio from our modern lives, then we might forget about the fact that vaccines work. Vaccines are the reason that I do not worry about you getting polio. And you and I both received polio vaccinations as infants with the hopes that your children may one day not have to receive a polio vaccine at all. The polio vaccine is a gift of grace given to us by our ancestors. And the only task we have to say is, thank you to the generations that came before us. And remember the work that they did. My hope, Bode, is that you will never forget about the polio vaccine during your lifetime, and that you will tell your children, who hopefully won't have to get a shot, about this extraordinary gift that you simply received. The second idea that vaccines teach us about grace is that there is a noticeable minority of people who refuse to get the vaccine or have not made it a high enough priority to get vaccinated. In California, 64.5% of the population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19, which means that a little more than 1 out of 3 of the population are not fully vaccinated. I have to tell you, Bode, I empathize with those who are hesitating or refusing to get the vaccine. After all, there is this big, beautiful gift of grace that is the vaccine, and about 1 in 3 adults respond with skepticism by saying, okay, what's the catch here? The reason they respond this way is because all of us have been burned by something or someone. So we put our guard up and immediately turn suspicious when someone says, I want to give you something that will make you better, and I'm not going to charge you for it. And so jaded adults look for the flaws, the narratives, the ulterior motives that would justify such an extraordinary gift of grace, and then spread those ideas like wildfire. They spend their energies telling others about how the vaccine isn't a gift of love that asks for nothing back, but instead that the vaccine advances the agenda of people in power. And so people reject the gift of grace because they cannot believe that someone would be willing to offer them grace. Bode, as you grow older, you will be burned by someone or something in your lifetime. My hope for you is that you can develop a healthy skepticism, but at the same time, that this skepticism will never harden your heart. Grace is real. There are some things in life that are true gifts that don't require anything back from you. And as children, we are so willing to welcome grace into our lives, but the doldrums of adulthood try to beat this generous reception out of us. But this is why we celebrate Christmas every year, Bode, to remind us of the grace that a mother showed God and how God received that grace with open arms. The vaccine, just like the Christmas story, teaches us that grace exists and that grace is real. And I hope that you grow up to be a man who believes and trusts grace when you see it. Whether you witness grace in a delivery room or you witness grace from a shot in your arm. The third idea might be the most important idea from both the Christmas story and the vaccine. Because the number one reason I've heard from the unvaccinated about why they don't want to get the vaccine is that they want to have bodily autonomy. My body, my choice, they say. The idea is that the vaccine is a personal decision about health, and other people shouldn't get to decide what kind of treatment options they select for their own well-being. While this may sound good, Bode, there is one problem with this logic. COVID-19 is contagious. And while you will be getting the vaccine to protect yourself from the dangers of this virus, equally important is the fact that you will also be getting the vaccine to prevent the spread of the virus to another person around you. And that part of the equation is frequently missing from the conversation. Bode, let's assume for a moment that the vaccine didn't protect you at all from the virus. Instead, the vaccine only prevented you from giving the virus to others. Do you think your mother and I would still have you get the vaccine? Well, if the health professionals around us recommended it, of course we would. This is the highest form of love. I do not say these words lightly. They come from the mouth of that baby who grew up into a man that we celebrate during this season. Toward the end of his life, Jesus said to his disciples, "No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends." This is precisely what Jesus did when he was born as an infant. This is precisely what anyone does today when they get a shot in their arm to protect the people around them. And if you genuinely care about the health of those around you, then at that moment, you are living the Christmas story, Bode. Bode, I want you to become the kind of person that would get a shot in your arm to protect the people around you. I want you to be willing to serve others. If your neighbor is sick, then I want you to care about their suffering. This is the way of Jesus Christ, and this is the life that is worth living. The vaccine, just like the Christmas story, teaches us that whenever we receive grace, it's also important for us to give grace away. And when you grow older, our desire is that you give grace away generously to all the people you encounter, just as you give grace to us in our family today. Bode, thank you for teaching me about grace. My prayer is that when you receive this shot next week, you will one day see it as a tremendous act of grace, and that throughout your life, you may be able to receive grace as generously as you have received it as a child. I am proud of you, Bode. I can't wait to meet you as a 5-year-old. I am looking forward to all of the adventures we will go on together, and I love you. I love you more than I could ever express. Love, Dad.
told me, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, a newborn king to see, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. Our finest gifts we bring, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, to lay before the King, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. So to honor him, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, when we come. Little baby, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, I am a poor boy too, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. I have no gift to bring, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, that's fit to give the King, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. Shall I play for you, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, on my drum? Mary nodded, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, the ox and lamb kept time, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. I played my drum for him, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum. I played my best for him, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum, rum-pum-pum-pum. Then he smiled at me, pa-rum-pum-pum-pum, me and my drum.
Will you pray with us? Dear God, please help us to be people who are willing to receive grace and also give grace away. Thank you for the gift of this vaccine. Thank you for the gift of health. And thank you for the gift of life.
Dear God, please help us be the people who care about the well-being of others. May we be selfless enough to inconvenience ourselves for the betterment of humanity. And may we be willing to lay our lives down in service of those around us.
Remind us that grace exists, and have open hearts, open minds, and open arms as we welcome the reality of grace into our lives. If any of us are jaded, help us to remember the Christmas story and the grace that you received from your mother Mary.
In the human name of Jesus, in the eternal name of Christ, amen. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll continue our Christmas series next week. Samir Salmanovich will be preaching a sermon called Mystic Christmas. We'd love to see you then. We hope you have a great week. Take care.